That's a gay-ass podcast.
What? That's a gay-ass podcast. A what? A really, really, really gay podcast that we call That's a Gay-Ass Podcast.
That's a gay-ass name for a gay-ass podcast.
Welcome back to That's a Gay-Ass Podcast, the podcast that asks, whose fault is it that you're gay? It is me, Eric Williams, and can you believe it, girlies? Cody Rigsby is on That's a Gay-Ass Podcast. You know him as the Peloton celebrity, the New York Times best-selling author, and yes, the co-host of Tactful Pettiness, another gay-ass podcast. In this episode, I get Cody's take on steam room hookups. We talk about Dancing with the Stars, which he did with Mel from the Spice Girls and JoJo Siwa. And I also find out what the fook is going on with Raya, the celebrity dating app. If you want to see Cody's gorgeous face, watch the full video episode on YouTube, subscribe there, and follow the podcast on Instagram at GayAssPodcast. Now enjoy my chat with Cody Rigsby. Cody Rigsby is on That's a Gay-Ass Podcast, looking absolutely stunning. Cody, the colors are working for you.
Thank you so much. I mean, it is like groutfit season, sort of like groutfit season. So I am wearing a gray hoodie, but the pops of color obviously, work for me behind me. So we're doing great.
I think your personality brings the color to the gray hoodie, and the gray hoodie is framing your aura.
Wow. Thank you so much.
It's such an honor to have you on this gay ass fooking podcast. I think it's against the law to have a gay podcast and not have Cody Rigsby have been on it. So let's get cooking. Cody, can I say a big mazel tov for your new podcast called Tactful Pettiness? What a slay it is.
Thank you so much. And we love a shameless shout out. We always have to give the girls the knowledge of what's happening in our lives, so a product placement, if you will. If we didn't do so, we wouldn't be like watching RuPaul's Drag Race enough, because Mama Ru is great at a product placement.
She is. What are the drinks that they drink in the lounge? They're always
the House of Love cocktail.
Thank you. See, that's why we know they're doing their work, because you can say the literal brand of the cans out of which they are drinking.
Well, what is annoying about the House of Love cocktail, which I have not had, I don't think so. Well, actually, no. I think I had one at the Drag Race premiere this year, but I wanted to order them, or I wanted to buy them, and I think you can only order them from the House of Love RuPaul's Drag Race site, and it was too much work, and I gave up.
Well, okay, paint the picture then. What's your dream scenario? You're at a bodega and House of Love is in the fridge?
Oh my God, yes. That would be the perfect bodega purchase. And I do believe that there are non-alcoholic versions of House of Love cocktail, because RuPaul is in fact 30 years sober or something. I don't know what it is, but she's a very sober entrepreneurish.
Well, God bless her. I'm also mostly sober because alcohol sober, because I'm a marijuana girly. Although, cut to me last night at a high school networking event, not something I do often or ever.
A high school networking event?
Girl, buckle the brunch up. I live in Los Angeles. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. Why were they here? Question 1. Question 2, why was the event thrown? Question 3, why did I go? Answer to 3 is that curiosity killed the cat. I go and I had a glass of wine because when you're amongst high school colleagues, if you will, honey, I needed a lubricant.
You needed to calm down and cool down. But how does it feel to be this is your old high school, people you went to high school with?
Yeah, it was basically some people from my years. Yeah, it was sort of basically between us girls, I think it was for them to be let's travel and meet with alumni and try to get them to give us money. So it was people from my year, other years, and a couple teachers were there, and the administrator. So it was a bit of that.
Did you feel elite? Did you feel better than some of the girls? It's okay if you did. Be honest.
No, I'm going to be honest with you. I actually went. So a dear friend of mine is an absolute slay. She lives in LA. She is the head of events at Netflix. So she is truly living the dream. And so she said to me, she's like, you're going to be the celebrity there. And I said, sweetie pie, while I think maybe my English teacher that is there will treat me like a celeb. And if she doesn't, she's dead to me. I'll be a star to her. Otherwise, no one will care if I live or die. And I would say that overall was the vibe. And I was good with that. She gave me I felt her breasticles against my chesticles in a tight embrace.
English teacher or your friend?
English teacher.
You felt your English teacher's breasts?
When we hugged.
Well, when you hugged.
Heart to heart.
And you know, English teachers are the backbone of the LGBTQ community. They really were there for us in many ways. You know, while reading Their Eyes Are Watching God, they were also like having lunch and conversations with us because nobody would sit with us in the cafeteria. So
exactly.
You know.
We're talking about the plot points of the Canterbury Tales and then also why we accidentally called our teacher's mom. Now, I also would love to bring up something on this gorgeous podcast. First of all, Andrew Chappelle's your co-host. We love the Broadway Boots Baby House Down La La Ree, but we also love all of the hot topics you get into. And one of your recent episodes, Andrew gave a gorgeous rant on Raya. So I want to get into the dating apps, but for the uninitiated, Cody, can you tell the girlies listening what the fook is Raya?
To my knowledge, allegedly Raya is a dating app for rich, famous, connected, networked people because, you know, celebrities and rich and famous people need to have their own app so that they are not stuck dating boogers, commoners, poor people. Hookers. I'm sure some of them are dating hookers. That's for sure.
I just repeated you saying boogers because I like
boogers. Sorry.
I just like referring to plebeians as boogers as a really
plebeians. Yeah. So, you know, they need to keep themselves, you know, away from the commoners. But my whole thing is, you know, this is going to sound wrong, but my assistant is on Raya and I cut her check and, you know, she makes a livable good wage, but I would not consider her rich nor famous. So
you're taking away the sort of street cred of Raya?
A little bit. And we did on our podcast, I deemed it the Soho House of dating apps because everyone's joining. No one's really doing anything but trying to look cool. Everyone's just assessing each other, and it's really leading to nowhere. I would love to see the app to marriage pipeline on the Raya statistics marketing team. I know they have those analytics somewhere.
I'm sure they do, and I would be absolutely obsessed to see the data, the analytics, if you will.
The analytics.
Now, since we've defined Raya, I want to get you... Now, since we've defined Raya, I want to hear your take on the dating apps. What's your favorite hookup/dating app? Can you give us the tea?
They're all horrible, okay? They're all horrendous. I've never been on a dating app. I've only been on a sex app.
Sure.
Do you know what I'm saying? So like a Grindr and other. But you know what? I've reflected on those apps and I don't like what they bring out of me. I'm not trying to yuck anybody's yum, but I know how I behave in those spaces and it's not like my best. And I feel like they kind of lend themselves towards not, even if it's just a sexual encounter, not always integrity and not always like respect to each other. And so I kind of like don't like them, but I'm not yucking anybody's yum and I'm not saying that I have not used them. So please.
No, of course. And I think what you're saying is actually a lot of us resonate with, which is that it's not our highest vibration because the apps are built to be a game that you are being forced to stay on as much as you can and then try to quote unquote win. And the winning doesn't exactly feel like the highest of integrity. I was talking about it with a friend literally yesterday because I've only really for the first time used those apps because
oh, wow.
I was monog with my man for 8 years. And before we dated, I was almost like too afraid to actually act on my horny impulses to meet via the apps.
Was that in a pre-prep world?
It was pre-prep world. Yeah. It was also post my parents telling me if I had sex, I would die. So like I was very sex negative with myself, just in terms of like, I mean, people who listen to the pod know I'm a horny girlina, but there was something that was so forceful in my mind that was like, if you lean into your impulses of like wanting to connect with the person you're attracted to, it will lead to danger. And of course, I sucked my share. I kissed my share. But like, I am grateful for the prep of it all that will help that inner child within me. But it's also the balance of like trying to, again, not yuck anyone's yums, our yums of what we want, but it's also still like, I don't know, feeling good about. It's building
an awareness how any of these apps or behaviors or anything that we interact with, how do they make us feel? And if it's not feeling fierce or cute, or you feel kind of weird afterwards, then like you should observe that.
Yes.
I also like, I don't like the 20-30% rule on Grindr. Let's just use Grindr as the example.
Okay.
Like most of the time, people are about 20 to 30% less hot than their pictures are or their profile is. And that 20% can really make or break an experience because you've built up this fantasy. And when you arrive, you're like, whoa, this is not what I thought I was getting myself into. And then you're kind of like, if you don't have the balls to do so, being like, hey, this isn't working for me, I'm going to leave, you kind of feel obliged, and you have to like keep, you sometimes you interact with people in a way that you weren't going to, like
yes.
a little bit of a pity fuck, or like I'm already here. And I don't like
Cody.
that.
Listen. It's so funny you're saying this because literally this week on the Patreon we have these like gay sex conversations, and the very if anyone follows Emil Jameson, Twitter famous girl, we talk about, you know, what we can do if we're in a scenario where it doesn't feel like we actually want to go through with the hookup or whatever it is. And I think it's easier said than done to interrupt the exchange and say, I'm not down to clown. I mean, have you ever actually successfully been like, girl, yes. I'm actually gonna, how'd you do it?
Multiple times. So
help us.
I think you need to have your speech, not even speech, just your statement prepared, so that when the uncomfortable feelings come up, you don't shy away from them. And I think honestly, it's just like, hey, I'm not really feeling this interaction, and I don't want to go through with it. Like, you know, thanks for your time, but I'm going to leave.
Do you have any advice for people pleasers who are afraid of anyone feeling anything negative about them?
Well, as a people pleaser myself, like, fuck it. Just like, you don't know this hoe. You don't know this hoe. What do you owe them? You just met on an app. You walked into a stranger's home. You're not into it. Tell them you don't like it. Leave. One thing is,
are you a people pleaser? Because that sounded really evolved.
Well, yes, and you know, there's, you know, the evolution has stages. Yes, and this happened to me, and it was at someone's home who made me take my shoes off. So it was very awkward because I was like, okay, please tell me you had lace ups to the knee. Please tell me. It was not a slip-on shoe. It was definitely like a lace. And I'm like, okay, this isn't working out for me. Like, you know, thank you so much.
You walk out without tying your shoes. You trip on the laces.
I walk to the door. I put on the shoe. I tie it up. I do the other one. Okay, thanks. And then he's like, no, I got to walk you down because like I got to lock the door behind you. No. I'm like, oh my God.
Wait, and then it cuts to 12 locks. He's hugely paranoid, so he's got about 12 different padlocks. Give me a second.
And then messages me 10 minutes later and be like, can you tell me like what was wrong? And I was like, you know what?
2030.
Yeah, the 20% really weighed on him.
Well, I give you the props for sticking up for your truth. And also just like, I 100% believe it is not worth our own integrity or I don't know, value to hook up with someone just because you're there and you feel bad if you don't. I know that's the truth. It's just where I struggle is that moment of the, hey girly, I'm not feeling it. And it's deeply entrenched in like my parents and my upbringing being like, if anybody does not like you, the world will end.
Yes. And listen, if it makes it any better, I know you're going to be astonished by this statement. You're going to audibly gasp, but that has also happened to me. Like exactly. Thank you. Like many years ago though. So let's preface it with that. Let's preface it with that because
Your moment of humility lasted.
judges. Exactly. It did happen to me once and I was just like, okay, fair.
Laced up your boots and clomped out.
Luckily, he had not taken off his shoes yet.
And thank Rue.
Yes.
Now, I love our honest talk on the hookups, but Cody Rigsby, you're on That's a Gay Ass Podcast. So I need to ask you the famous podcast question, which is, whose fault is it that you're gay? Who do we blame, babe?
Wow. Okay, I'm going to go with genetics, but if we're going to if that answer is the second best answer, the first best answer is Britney Spears' 1999 VMA performance to Oops, I Did It Again / Can't Get No Satisfaction, where she took off her clothes in a rhinestone G-string and literally turned me gay, turned me to a homosexual. There was something in the air. There was a magic. There was something pulsing through America that evening.
Do you believe that all of the VMA Britney references this year, did it fill your heart up to know that so many people are referencing, or do you feel like they need to create their own identity?
What? Listen, she is the blueprint of the VMA. No one has done it better than her. The only reference, I think we need to go through these references though, because the only one that I know is the Tate McRae outfit on the red carpet that was very similar to the lace, I think Versace moment that Britney wore.
So Sabrina Carpenter did in her performance, the opening moment monologue from, I believe, Oops, I Did It Again. It was one of the Britney openings was Sabrina sampled that at the beginning of her set.
I guess I came into that performance late and didn't see that because I literally just watched it.
I mean, I'm also not, you're the pop culture literate queen, so here I am.
I think, I'll take that. Let's but she is the blueprint, and of course, the girls, especially in this era, all of the girls coming up, the Chaperones, the Sabrina Carpenters, maybe not so Charlie XCX, the Tate McRae's, they grew up watching Britney, some of us did, but so much of pop culture zeitgeist right now and styling and references is so from the Y2K era. So of course you're going to grab from that and use it as this reference point.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? You gave a really gorgeous reference before we hit record on Popstar Academy on Netflix. And the reason I bring it up is because there is that whole idea of star quality and, of course, the skill that comes with being a pop star girly. But it's so underestimated the je ne sais quoi that Britney Spears possessed and possesses. And that's not something that is...
No one has been able to replicate that. I just no one. You're gonna be okay, Beyonce, but Beyonce, that's not the same. It's not the same energy. Beyonce's on her own and does her thing, but no one can replicate the nuances of the dancing, the faces, I don't want to say courage, but she just always went for it. There was no hesitation in the way that she performed. It was so present and just so good. You can see a little bit, and also no one's dancing like she does, except for probably Tate McRae. I've probably said Tate McRae's name a lot in this podcast. But even as I watch her, the face isn't like what Britney gives. Does that make sense? The choreography is there. She's hitting it. It looks great. But the face and the energy that's given there, it's not the same. And I'm not sitting here trying to compare her, but no one does it no one has done it like Britney.
Well, the compare to spare is real here, but I do need to clarify that you did bring up Beyonce, who is sort of one of the big things that made me gay. You're not alleging that the star quality is differing between Britney and Beyonce, are you, in terms of level?
like on a quantifiable range.
I think you're saying they're in different universes, and they both function beautifully on either of their planets.
Yes, but they also have a cross set. There's like there's a middle part in the Venn diagram. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do get that for sure.
It's not a compare. It's not a like putting against. It's that like, yeah, they have their own things and their own imprint on pop culture. And I would just say that Beyonce is a little bit more of an artiste and is a little bit more intentional and like has a grander plan. Whereas Britney did in her own way, but it's just not as thorough. And also Beyonce didn't have to go through a 10-year conservatorship where she had no way to make her own choices, therefore really affecting her mental health. So you know what? Like, we're not even going to compare, but
I love that answer. And I also love that you're giving a bit of a light on the struggles that some of our queens went through. Obviously, Britney, ooh girl, been through it. I also bring up, well, again, we don't need to compare our women against each other, but in terms of difficult upbringings or family situations, I read Jessica Simpson's autobiography, and ooh, her dad is villainous. There's
something about those Southern men that have pop star daughters that they don't know how to act right.
They don't. It's probably some fucked up thing about like they want their daughters to themselves, quote unquote. Like the world's not allowed to have them. I don't know.
That is, in the words of Wife Swap, a little dark sided. Okay, dark sided, unchristian.
That is not a Christian. No, it's spot on though.
For sure. There's probably a little bit of like what is it called? Oh, purity culture mixed in there too.
Well, yeah, and that sort of goes into the Southern of it all. Even like if we may reference my own sex negativity that I was given about like just like there's such a fear about sexuality and I think like pleasure and authenticity.
Where did you grow up?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, that's Missouri. Okay.
And you're a North Carolina girl.
I was in North Carolina. Yeah, I definitely that like had an imprint on like my ability to express myself, especially like during high school. But once I went to college, I was like, fuck it. But that also took me coming to New York. Before I like came out in North Carolina, I interned in New York for 6 months. Oh, no, not even like 3 months. And that I was like, came up here and I was like, I'm going to be a faggot and like live my life. And then that gave me the courage to then go back to North Carolina and be like, guess what, guys? Like,
I'm a faggot.
I'm gay. Yeah. So,
do you think anybody has ever come out instead of saying I'm gay, but I'm a faggot?
Well, there's always time. So hopefully someone takes that from this podcast.
Listen, if you love That's a Gay Ass Podcast, there's like a 94% chance you love the Golden Girls. I know that I do, and I'm so excited to tell you about the Golden Girls Deep Dive Podcast. It's a new podcast that you will absolutely j'adore. It's not only a recap podcast that goes into like your favorite episodes of the Golden Girls, there is a twist involving true crime. I'm not joking. They have like a full-time researcher that looks into trivia, behind the scenes stuff, and they dive deep. I don't know if you remember in the pilot episode, there's Coco, the gay chef. Like, where did he go? You will get that answer with this wackadoo true crimey ending on the Golden Girls Deep Dive Podcast. There was also all that crazy stuff about B. Arthur and Betty White hating each other. They dive into that. They also dive into like the 30 years of unpaid community theater acting gigs that Estelle Getty did before booking Sophia. The Golden Girls Deep Dive Podcast, they de-live her. And finally, the hosts are killing it. Patrick Hines has been in the game for years. He is so funny. He hosts True Crime Obsessed, The GOAT. He also hosts it with Jennifer Samard. Y'all, Broadway legend. Are you not gagged? Go listen to the Golden Girls Deep Dive Podcast. They already have hundreds of 5-star reviews. They've topped the charts, and you deserve. Grab that cheesecake, head to the lanai, and go follow the Golden Girls Deep Dive Podcast wherever you listen.
Now, since we are referencing your upbringing, I just want to give another mazel, and from the bottom of my heart, your book, XOXO Cody, anniversary of 1 year, Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Happy congrats to New York Times bestseller.
Thank you so much.
But in this book, you talk about when you were growing up and sort of the roller coaster, of course, with financial struggles. You were experiencing homelessness at one point, and then also the ups and downs of your relationship with your mom.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of girlies listening have ups and downs with their own families, and you have a path of forgiveness, it sounds like, that you've worked on. Was therapy the
big part of that? Yeah.
How did you get there, and how can we forgive our families? Like, what's the journey
Great question.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I started therapy because of like a massive breakup probably like 8 years ago. And then as anybody who's gone to therapy, you start to realize that a lot of the things that you might not love about yourself or want to evolve on are deep rooted in your upbringing, your parents, how they treated you. And so we started to dive way into that. And my mom, was the best parent that she could be, but that was with a lot of flaws, including like addiction and not being able to pay bills and creating a lot of housing, food insecurities within my life. And so I just felt like there was a lot of unresolved resentment where I felt like I was constantly having to show up and be the parent in the situation or the caretaker. By like my senior year of high school, I was paying rent. By the end of college, or in high school, we didn't have a car, so I bought a car. By the end of high school, I was paying half the rent. By my sophomore year of college, I moved back in with my mom to make sure that she could take care of herself. When I left for New York, I left her with my car. Like all these sort of things where I'm being the parent. And I think that built a lot of resentment and a lot of like trauma with me.
Yeah.
And I am a really big believer in radical acceptance, that you sometimes just have to accept the cards that you have been dealt and play them accordingly. And I could sit here and try to be mad about my mom not being the best caretaker, or I can also accept that she's a flawed individual and that she did the best that she could. And without that imperfect love and caretaking, like I would not exist or be in the place that I was. And that I kind of came to realization on a meditation retreat. That being said, also my mom, just turned 70, and I'm starting to realize that the time with our parents is really, really short.
Yes.
And is only getting shorter as the day comes, and they are, every day in a way kind of deteriorating. So letting go of the resentment and accepting things how they are allowed me to just move in and be like, you know what? I want to spend time with you. I want to be with you. I want to get closer with you. So I'm going to do that.
It's very well said that when you accept not only the cards, but also that you cannot change who they were and who they are. Yeah. I think that takes a lot of the struggle away of I need to either prove something or I need to constantly call out or come up against the things that I'm either angry about, resentful about, because my therapy journey has been similar in the sense of we are not going to change the people, our families or the people around us in the way that we fantasize about. We're not going to get that like the
and
magical.
I'm still working on that with many people in my life, but absolutely.
Well, yeah, I think it's once you then address, okay, if I can't change them, then when I either think about the behavior or the resentment, or I'm confronted with it currently, then you have a different perspective of like, how do I then meet them where they are? How do I take care of my heart, knowing that I've done the work and my work does not facilitate their action or their work? That's like the fuckery of it, I think.
Absolutely. And I think it's also being aware of the things that trigger you. Like when I do nice things for my mom or give her things, sometimes that is met with gratitude. Other times that's met with criticism of like it not being good enough or something like that. Or she'll always find like a little detail. Oh, I love this, but I wish it was in the pink color, something like that. And you kind of have to go into the situation being ready for those triggers and to like let them pass you, but also know that they might come up and just like be prepared for that. Oof.
It's really admirable to see someone who can go through these difficulties and then essentially you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping your relationship with your mom, because like you said, we need to enjoy the time we have, even with the limitations. Because as you know what I wish people did when we were kids? I wish that every child is told your parent loves you unconditionally and they are a human being who is very, very flawed. Yeah. We're all fucked up, and so is your mama.
Your generational package will come in either, premium or platinum, babe. Which one do you want?
Wait, that's a great. Let's ask that question. So obviously, our parents' generation has a certain vibe of like they didn't go to therapy, they didn't have the tools to deal with whether it's their anger, whatever it is. What is our generation? What's like the millennials? Okay, it's like millennials as parents. What are our children or our friends' children saying is the most fucked up about us? What's our diagnosis?
Maybe like, is there like a fucked up way of almost giving these kids too much? Like,
yeah, I think it's that.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't receive, so then we're going to want to give all these kids all the things we didn't get. The trips to Disney World, the toys, the movie, the popcorn with the icy. Like, we are going to give it to them all. In a way, that's like not creating certain like life skills or like or it creates expectations in these kids. So then they're going to be fucked up in their own little way.
Yeah. Well, you're saying, I agree with you. You're saying some material things. I also think our generation is giving too many helicoptery, almost like the reverse overcorrection of therapy speak, maybe of like, is that frustrating to you? Yeah. Which I love that as a therapy girl, I love addressing the feeling, but I'm sure some people are doing the overcorrection where that might end up creating some stuff with the kid. I much prefer our generation's that way of parenting, but I know that every generation of parents fucks up their kids in some way. It's just
it's inevitable. If you're gonna try to avoid that, it's not gonna happen, babe. You're gonna mess up. You're gonna mess up, and I think that's true for life in general.
100%. Well, I want to get further into the Cody Rigsby universe by giving you a chance to go absolutely off, because you have called yourself an opinionated homosexual. And so I've got 10 rapid fire topics I want your take on. Are you ready for this, Cody?
Yeah. I thought I was going to have to come up with things, but I'm so glad that you have 10 already ready to go. Oh, God.
Yeah. What if I was just like, okay, go off on anything. Go. No, I'm going to give you the guardrails, and I want you to go absolutely F. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. I want you to go off and take it off. Okay, here we go. So this is 10 rapid fire topics. Cody Rigsby, go absolutely off. Number 1, the Wicked movie having a part 1 and 2. How do we feel?
You know what? In this economy, everyone's got to make their money, including Ariana Grande. So you know what? Cash those checks. And listen, the audience is going to spend it. So I don't care. You're speaking to the generation that went to 4 or 5 Twilight movies and 4 Hunger Games movies. Actually, I went to the prequel just recently. So we're going to spend the money, babe. And I love going to the movie theaters. So, an extra excuse to sit in a luxurious chair and have a big bowl of popcorn.
I will see you at the cinéma on part 1 et 2. Moving on to number 2, steam room sexy time. How do we feel?
Ooh, as someone who has been in the fitness industry for 10 years, I have not practiced that in a very long time because I'm trying to separate church and state. But okay, here's also the thing about it. It takes like the perfect timing, because I'm not that kind of girl that's going to like interact with it when there's 5 people in the steam room. I'm literally going to have to wait till the one person that I might want to hook up with is there. And that I do not have time for.
The stars need to align, and honey, it's feeling like a black hole. Moving on to number 3, Cody, Instagram dumps. Do we alike, or is social media rotting our brains?
As someone who frequently dumps, I love them, but my assistant told me that we have to stop calling them dumps. It has to be a new title, like it's like Life Lately or like the girls are getting together. I don't know, but like we have to stop calling it dumps.
Maybe like a Monday montage or something.
Sure. I don't know. I don't love alliteration in captions. That's alliteration, right? I believe.
It is.
Okay,
you nailed it.
I don't love alliteration in things, or trying to make something a Tuesday or a Monday or a Wednesday. Like just get, like fuck it. Like,
It's not a dump, but it is insert some random third thing here.
There you go.
This is a good one. Hooking up with your coworkers. Slay or nay?
Nay. babe, you work with like what 200 people. There's 8 million in New York City. There's 80 billion in the world. Like, don't fuck this up. And that makes it awkward for everybody else that works with you, especially if you it doesn't make it, especially if it gets around the office. I don't want that. I don't want it. No, thank you.
Do you ever, Peloton aside, pre-Peloton, did you ever?
No, I've also learned, that's what I'm saying. I've learned from my mistakes. In North Carolina, I dated a guy that I worked with at a restaurant for a year. And then when I worked at cafeteria, I was fucking some other server for about three months, and it just didn't end well. I don't like that.
Well, now give it to me straight. Was the sex ultimately worth the awkwardness, or no dice?
It was. I'm not going to lie.
I was going to say 2 hot servers at cafeteria. I'm like, where is that Pornhub channel?
I'm sure it's somewhere on OnlyFans. Just got to pay that $10.99 paywall, okay?
Could not be me. Moving on to our next topic, Halloween couples costumes. Do we like?
I love, but I'm tired of straight men just like getting a participation trophy because their girlfriend is hot and they did some whack thing, or like they're not fully committed. So I'm here for it, but just like really slay it. It better be good.
Can we give props?
Both people need to show up. Both people need to show up.
I agree. And you've done a very good job on your podcast giving props to the women who have to deal with their straight men. Like there are, especially like them putting in all the work with their looks, and the men, you know, it's just like you were talking about Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson at the Super Bowl halftime show. Yeah. Where
Andrew pointed out that he looked like Doug Funny. Like
he truly
outfit that Doug Funny wears.
Well, the girlies with the straight guys, you are doing the Lord's work, and I know that our humanity needs you to procreate.
Yeah, someone needs to make these babies.
Yeah, Social Security. Anyone? Moving on to our next. Oh, okay. We touched on this at the beginning of the ep, so let's give you the floor. Cody, Sniffies versus Grinder. Do you have a preference?
Here's the thing, Sniffies. What I like about Sniffies is that it is upfront and honest. It is transactional. It's like, hey, we are here to fuck. That is it. Maybe we fuck and there's some sort of connection afterwards, but it is to the point, and it is in an app of an economy of time, and I appreciate that.
Yes.
Whereas I feel like Grindr, you're playing a lot of games, and it's also good to know with Sniffies, like, how far do I need to walk? Because how far is it going to take someone to get here? And that is very important in New York City, because if I have to walk more than 15 minutes, I'm going to really think about this choice.
Keeping it trucking along to our next hot take. Cody Rigsby, Burning Man. Have you gone? Would you go? And should people go?
I understand the fantasy. The stars would have to really align for me to go. I've never gone. I also, like, if I'm spending that much money, I want to be able to luxuriate, babe. I don't want like dust on my booty hole like
Wait,
that.
Is Burning Man expensive? I'm sure it is.
So expensive. You have to like plan it. If you're even going to do it with a remote sense of comfort, it takes like, you have to plan it like starting in January. You have to know someone who's got tickets, and you have to like plan everything in advance. And it's just like a lot of work. I'm not saying it's not worth it. It's just, it is a barrier to entry for me because it's a lot. I'm not going to say never, but the stars are really going to have to align for me, babe.
And the stars are going to be aligning while you glamp and your gorgeous RV.
And like, honestly, it's always like Labor Day weekend or something. So I'd much rather be in like Europe, in Fire Island Pines, like cozy in my skin. Okay. So I don't know.
Comfortable in my skin.
Thank you.
What about Glenn Close smelling nappy pussy?
So I have not watched Deliverance, but it is on my list of things to watch. I believe that's what you're referencing. So I'm gonna say hit it, or like yay. I don't know. Like but I don't have an authentic reaction to it.
Well, I hope that one day we get a documentary of Glenn Close reading that script for the first time and then asking what it means. That's sort of the villain origin story I want to see of Glenn Close being confronted with nappy pussy. We're getting towards the end of these takes. Cody, May-December relationships.
What is that?
I knew
What
it.
is
Fucking
that?
See, okay. I'm gonna give you an opportunity here to feel great because what these are age gap relationships. But when I was talking to our stunning, sexy, bubble-butted producer Nathanael, he goes, "Oh yeah, those are May December relationships." And I go, "Oh, does everybody know that?" And he says, "Yes." And I'm here to say that you and I are both either not smart, or it's just something that we don't know about. It's called May December relationships. It's age gap relationships. People dating someone a lot older. Being in a relationship with someone who is
a lot old.
Well, do you have a ceiling of what you think you or others should date?
You know, when I was younger, I gave it like a 3-year rule, like above or below. But I think I've expanded that to like 5. But I'm typically not to sound creepy, but I'm typically not going, definitely not 5 above me.
What's not creepy about that?
That like, am I dating younger versus like older?
Oh, you prefer to go a little younger than a little older.
Yeah, but I'm not opposed to a little bit older. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I think
like a 5 to 3 rule. You know, 5 on the lower, 3 on the top, whatever.
Live your bliss. I tend to feel more attracted towards older, and some people feel more attracted towards a little bit younger. And we say whatever floats your boat.
For sure.
Paddle on.
I'm not against it. I'm not against an age gap. I think it just really depends on the power dynamic and where two people are and what the intention of that coalition is really giving. If, you know, like both people love each other, there's a 10-year age gap and everyone feels good, then we're great. But, you know, if someone's dating someone younger to have power over them or manipulate them or control them so that they feel good about themselves, then that's not what it's about.
Absolutely. And your final topic is pop girls giving us 2-minute songs. Do you care?
Nobody is giving a body of work anymore. Like, why is every single 2 minutes? Can we not push the envelope a little bit? I know that we are running out of like attention span and time to consume content, but I really do appreciate, like, give us at least 3. Like, that's like 3.5.
I agree. I want a bridge. I want a fucking bridge.
Yeah, I want a bridge, and I want. That's why I do appreciate Beyonce. She's still putting out bodies of work. She's putting out songs that are 5 or 6 minutes. They're hitting. We're feeling good about it. I like a body of work. I like art in an album. I like to feel the energy, even if it's like just bubblegum pop versus, you know, something like super moody. So yeah, that's my take.
Cody, you're so great at giving us these on the spot reactions, and I just thank you for your honest stay, truly. Now, we need to at least talk for a quick second about 2 topics. One is, of course, a bit of your Peloton journey. But before that, I want to ask quickly about Dancing with the Stars. I kind of feel like it's a gay dream going on that show. But what makes it even gayer is that you competed against Mel C from the Spice Girls, JoJo Siwa, Real Housewives of Atlanta's Kenya Moore, Melora Hardin of The Office fame, Amanda Klutz. Can you, like, who was very different behind the scenes compared to their persona that surprised you, if any?
I mean, I did write about this in my book. When it came to Mel C, like, there's a whole story in my book about how I came to find out that Mel C was going to be on the season of my season. And I was just, everybody on the show is like nervous, and it's a lot to take on. It is a grueling process. And so to kind of get time with Mel C and have somewhat intimate conversations with her, and for her to also feel nervous and scared and a little bit out of like her comfort, out of her comfort zone, was just astonishing to me. I'm like, you're a fucking Spice Girl. Like, you have sold out stadiums. You are the vocal backbone of one of the greatest girl groups to ever exist. You know how to do a back handspring while singing. Like, what are you talking about? How are you feeling these feelings? And so to share to trauma bond with Mel C was just, you know, top 5 experiences of my life.
I can only imagine because Spice Girls, it's even silly to say, like created a fleet of gay people who
Not a fleet.
created a fleshlight of queers who just felt seen by our girlies.
Yeah.
I also think that, tell me if you feel the same way, that there's this crazy notion of celebrities, musicians, actors, comedians, whatever it is, that you assume once they've hit a certain level that a lot of their self-doubt or anxiety goes away. But what I'm finding is that interviewing people, like obviously you are one of the amazing people I'm interviewing, so many guests that I've had on for this or the live shows that I do, I feel shocked every time I meet people that I respect crazy, and I'm like, they're just as anxious and medicated as me. It's like this.
But it's kind of what you do with those sort of things. But I would say on the pop star front, or like I think that actually can be, fame and applause is a hell of a drug, as many have said. And I feel like it's almost more detrimental when you hold on or try to maintain the level of fame or stardom or success, that it becomes almost detrimental or the opposite of what you want. With a grain of salt, I would say that like J-Lo's kind of in that space right now, where she's had this legendary career, and then like in the past year, she's just really put out a lot of chasing. And it's like, mama, you're an icon. You're a legend. You have done so many things. Like the impact is untouchable. Like you still look great. You dance amazing. And here you are just like putting out kind of crap to stay relevant. And then it like kind of smacked you in the face. And I don't love that for you. I don't love to see our icons like getting hit in the face, but like, you can't be chasing it forever, and sometimes you need to go through the waves of success and downtime. And also, if I was J-Lo, bitch, I would be retired on a beach doing nothing.
Or like wait to find another movie like Hustlers.
Thank you.
Oh my God. I watched that in theaters thinking this, I know that like she was getting Oscar buzz at the time and some people were like shading it. I said, I don't care what award she gets. I just need her to feel seen. And because
she deserved that.
She was acting. She looked incredible.
Dancing, stripping,
dancing. It was just like, it was her at her very high frequency, I thought. And she deserves that. And I agree that it's like, don't debase yourself to just trying to get like, I don't know, whether it's the headline or the check or whatever. It's against my religion not to ask, as a Bravo girly, Kenya Moore, did we enjoy...
No, I'm just like, I thought you were going to ask me like a Bravo related question, like to something else versus, because like I don't really watch a lot of Bravo programming. So.
No, but you were on the actually, ground.
Kenya Moore was a delight. She was so sweet. She was so nice. I had a really like amazing time with her for the amount of time that she was on the show. So no bad things to say about her. I was actually very surprised at how great she was.
Well, listen, we have to get towards the end of this conversation. So I just want you to give me a bit of insight into your Peloton world. Mazel tov on 10 years. That's kind of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, crazy.
How does it feel post the crazy boom of the pandemic and post the first, many years of getting into a rhythm? How does it feel to know that there are still people riding and screaming with you around the country? What does it mean to you now?
When the pandemic and the Peloton boost happened, it was a whirlwind of change for me, personally, professionally, monetarily, publicly, like all of these things. So to kind of ride that coaster and almost to a point of feeling like a little bit of a cog in a machine and also a little disassociative because I just had to keep going and keep the momentum going. It is nice to kind of be in a place now where I can kind of reconnect to the why and the purpose. And that really is important to me. And I think that really is about impacting people's lives in a really positive way, whether that be on their fitness or wellness journey, or representing the LGBT community and opening people's eyes to what queer life looks like, especially in parts of the country or the world where there's not a lot of queer people. That is really important to me. So it's been nice to ride the coaster, disassociate for a little bit, come down a notch, and reconnect to purpose and the joy of what my job is. And like, I'm so lucky. I have 10 years in a job that's fun, that's purposeful, that is still bringing people a lot of joy. So I'm really grateful for that.
I want to echo what you're saying and also just bring light to the fact that you might be the first gay person that a lot of these people, quote unquote, know.
Absolutely.
From around the country. And as someone who grew up with next to no queer people in my life that were out, proud, open, and showing so many colors of the community and what being gay is like, that is so huge for so many people. And of course, as someone like me who has this podcast to try to release shame and celebrate what we have and who we are as queer people, I give you snaps, and I thank you for being so unapologetic and so loud and proud. And I know that you're changing people's perceptions and the way that they view us. And while we don't need their support, we definitely need them to know that we are human beings. And you're doing a very good job of that. So I just want to say thank you. And
that is very kind. And I receive all of that. So thank you.
Of course. Well, listen, Cody, you've been such a stunning guest, but I have to ask you the final question on this gay ass podcast, which is, Cody Rigsby, if the world was ending, you could only save one character actress, who would you save?
Okay, my favorite, I think one of the best characters ever on television is Karen Walker. So
Megan Mullally.
Megan Mullally. I think that's one of the greatest characters. The writing for her, the costuming, the jokes, the physical comedy. I can't name a better person.
It's such a good answer, because in a way she's like the cuntiest parts of a gay man's personality, coupled with like a rich woman on the Upper East Side.
She has her little heart moments in the show. It's like very cute and sweet.
I love that answer. I love Megan. I love Karen. And I think that show, as a final moment for that show, is that I think that at the end of the day, Will, Grace, Jack, and Karen are all one queer person.
Oh.
And I think that
the inside out of a queer person.
Thank you. I
the
think Will and
Grace, in my head.
That's exactly it. Grace is the low self-esteem. Will is hot.
Over maybe like a little too focused on hyper productivity and being
There you go. He's the Virgo type A.
The velvet rage part of ourselves.
Jack is the show queen. Yes. And Karen is the martini drinking fabulous slut.
I'll let you take that one. Yeah,
and speaking of fabulous, Cody, thank you for coming on That's a Gay Ass podcast. It has been truly, truly a treat. And can you tell the listeners where to find you and how to get that gorgeous new podcast?
Of course. Please join me and my co-host Andrew Chappelle for our weekly podcast, Tactful Pettiness, where we talk about love, sex, relationships, pop culture. Please come and join us. You can also join me on Instagram at Cody Rigsby or on TikTok at Cody_Rigsby, because some hoe had already taken my name.
Bitch.
I know.
Well, follow Cody. Go listen to that amazing podcast every week. And I'll see you all gay assies next week.
Bye, boos.
Thanks for listening to That's a Gay Ass podcast. Isn't Cody the breast? Just a gorgeous, chatty Kathy. If you want to show us some love, tag us on Instagram at Gay Ass Podcast, and we would live if you leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also on Patreon at patreon.com/Gay Ass Podcast, and y'all, the bonus episodes there are horny and delicious. I'll see you next week for another stunning episode. And do me a favor, y'all. Stay gay. Stay gay. You've been listening to That's a Gay Ass Podcast, hosted by me, Eric Williams. If you want to see and hear more, make sure you're subscribed to us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, or Patreon at Gay Ass Podcast. That's a Gay Ass Podcast is executive produced by Eric Williams and produced by Nathanael McClure. We'll see you next week.